Welcome. Today we're diving into something pretty fundamental, critical minerals. These are the materials often unseen that are powering, well, everything from our phones to electric cars.
They're absolutely vital and becoming more so every day.
Exactly. And we've got this fascinating investment research report looking at strategic opportunities, say, for 2025 to 2030. Our mission today is really to pull out the key insights for you.
To help pinpoint where those real growth niches might be.
Because here's the thing, the report projects the overall global market to grow, maybe 7.5%, something like that, a CAGR by 2032. Solid, but
But yeah, just investing broadly might only get you sort of average returns.
right.
The report stresses you really need to be much more targeted. Specific minerals, specific parts of the value chain, that's where the significantly higher potential lies.
Okay, let's unpack that then. If we need to be specific, which minerals are looking like the real stars here?
Well, lithium absolutely jumps out. The global market projection is, 18.2% CAGR between 2025 and 2030?
18%, that's huge.
Yeah, it is. And U.S. lithium chemicals specifically, even higher, projected at 19.6% CAGR.
Wow. And what's driving that? Is it all EVs?
Primarily, yes. The EV industry is the single biggest driver. Think about this. U.S. demand for lithium, nickel, cobalt is projected to be 23 times higher in 2035 than it was back in 2021.
23 times. That's just a staggering number. It really paints a picture of transformation.
It does.
So beyond lithium, what else is critical in this landscape? What other materials are really shaping things?
Rare earth elements are definitely key. Specifically, you're looking at neodymium and praseodymium, NdPr, as it's often called.
Right, for the magnet.
Exactly. For the powerful permanent magnets in EV motors and wind turbines, their global growth is projected around 8.6%.
Still very strong.
Decent, yeah. And graphite, too. You can't forget graphite. It's actually the largest component by weight in most EV battery anodes right now. That's looking at about a 9.4% global CAGR.
Okay.
And zooming out, the bigger picture is overall mineral demand just for clean energy technologies. That's projected to nearly quadruple by 2040.
Quadruple. So the demand side seems crystal clear. Explosive, even. You'd think investment money would just be pouring in, right?
You would think so.
But here's where the report gets really interesting. There seems to be a disconnect.
That's right. It's a bit of a paradox. Despite this incredibly strong demand picture, investment momentum in actually developing new critical mineral supplies, it weakened in 2024.
Weakened. How much?
Spending rose only 5%. Now, that sounds okay, but it's down sharply from a 14% rise in 2023.
So a real slowdown.
Yeah, a significant slowdown. And this divergence, this gap between booming demand and lagging investment, it signals a potential, market inefficiency. An opportunity maybe for patient capital, but definitely a challenge.
That slowdown is really striking. Is it just that mining projects take a long time? Or is something else making capital hesitant? Which brings us to, well, geopolitics.
Yes, that's a huge factor.
Because where these minerals come from matters immensely, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It forces us to ask, how do we handle these supply chain vulnerabilities? Take China, for instance. They dominate rare earths, about 70% of mining, and almost all the processing.
70% mining, nearly all processing.
And similar stories for refining lithium, cobalt, nickel, very high global percentages. This concentration, plus, geopolitical tensions, potential export restrictions, it creates what the report calls non-technical risk premiums.
Non-technical risks, so risks not related to the actual geology or mining process.
Exactly. Political risk, policy risk, it adds uncertainty, adds cost, makes investors nervous, and can really deter investment even when the demand is obvious.
And tangled up in all this is the sort of green paradox, right? These minerals are needed for green tech, but getting them out of the ground, that has its own impacts.
A very important point. This leads straight into ESG considerations, environmental, social, governance. They're becoming paramount. Well, extraction can use a lot of water, it can create toxic waste, and then you have social aspects like ethical sourcing concerns. Cobalt mining, for example, has faced scrutiny over labor practices in some regions.
Right.
So companies that genuinely embrace sustainable methods, strong ESG principles, they're likely to gain a real competitive advantage. Easier regulatory approval, better access to capital, stronger social license to operate, it de-risks their operations long term.
Okay, so putting this all together, for someone trying to understand this space, maybe looking for opportunities, Beyond just digging more stuff out of the ground, where are the interesting angles?
Well, government support is turning out to be crucial. Things like the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act, the EU's Critical Raw Materials Act, they're actively trying to de-risk projects with tax credits, faster permitting, that sort of thing.
So policy is a big lever here.
A very big lever. Also, look towards innovation in processing and recycling. Advanced extraction tech like direct lithium extraction or DLE, it promises much more efficient, sustainable lithium production from brines compared to traditional methods.
DLE, right. More efficient, less environmental impact, potentially.
Potentially, yes. And recycling is becoming huge. Companies like Romco Metals focusing on copy recycling, or giants like Glencore processing old electronics. It's all part of this big push towards a circular economy for these materials.
So it's not just about mining virgin resources anymore. It's about being smarter with the whole life cycle.
Precisely. That shift is fundamental. And related to that is geographic diversification, breaking away from that heavy reliance on single sources.
Trying to build more resilient supply chain.
Exactly. Countries like Canada, Australia, they're positioning themselves as key alternative suppliers. It's about partnerships, strategic alliances, and also embracing technological shifts, like, say, sodium-ion batteries coming online. They won't replace lithium-ion everywhere, but they offer alternatives, complementing the existing tech, easing pressure on specific minerals.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. When you step back, what really stands out to you, it feels like critical minerals are this absolute linchpin for the future, but navigating it involves this complex web of demand, geopolitics, risk, and quite a bit of innovation.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway is that just chasing demand isn't enough. It's about that strategic niche selection, finding the right mineral, the right stage of the value chain. And you absolutely have to factor in those non-financial elements like ESG and geopolitical risk. Plus, backing the innovative solutions, recycling, new extraction tech that go beyond just traditional mining. That seems crucial for navigating this successfully.
It really does. Okay, here's a final thought to leave you with. As these technologies like DLE and advanced recycling get better and more widespread, and as totally new battery chemistries perhaps emerge, how might our very definition of which minerals are critical change over the next decade or two? Could today's bottleneck become tomorrow's, well, maybe not abundant, but certainly less critical resource, all thanks to human ingenuity? Something to think about.